Hello and welcome. My name is Vex, and today we have again two videos to watch and react to from Fateless. There's a Q&A that Simon did. Last week they asked the Discord, so if you're not a part of the Discord, you can join and join in some of these things. I think there's going to be more Q&As coming. They made a channel where you could like go in and ask questions, and Simon took a look at a bunch of those questions and answered them in this video. So we're going to take a look at that. My question got answered, so I'm curious to see what the actual answer is and sort of like break it down. And then there's another video I want to talk about a couple things related to the beta from this week's podcast that they did. They revealed the plans for the beta, so we're going to take a look at that later. If you want to skip to that part, I do have timestamps, so you should be able to see like chapters you can jump to. As always, this is recorded live in front of a studio audience, so if you want to join in on the fun while we react to these things and talk about it, links to my Twitch channel will be down in the description. Let's do it.
Hey guys, this is Simon from Fateless. Today we're going to be doing a community Q&A answering session. So we basically reached out to all of the guys in our Discord community and said, what are the big hitter questions you want answered? What would you like to understand about Godforge? I will do my best to answer, I guess, anything that I can, right? So there's going to be some stuff where I'm still going to be a little bit on the fence, but generally I'm going to be answering as much as I can. And I just give you guys...
So I had heard some whispers that there were some interesting tidbits of people like character profiles here. And I don't know who that lady is on the top right, but that's new.
As good an info package as I can. So the first question, which I thought would be on here, is when do we know if we're picked for beta? And there's a bunch of other questions around beta, right? So when's it going to happen? How many people are going to play? All that type of stuff. So I guess firstly, there is going to be a deep dive answer to this question on the podcast, which is coming this Thursday. We have Ash on the podcast with myself, Sham, and Brad.
This is the video that we're going to take a look at after we watch this. And I'm only cherry picking the beta specific news.
Chosen. And basically we talk about the beta at length and how some things are actually changing for what we originally planned for the beta. So yeah, definitely going to be a really like deep dive answer to that question. And so what I can tell you right now is we've made some changes to our plan for the beta, and what that looks like is, rather than we're going to throw you into a world which is half finished and give you some of the story but not all of the story and kind of let you play through some of that stuff, we're actually going to have a different experience which we're crafting right now, which is going to be more in tune with a
it's Izanami. That's who that is. Interesting. This in it, oh man, I wish they would just I want to know what initiative is versus speed. Like, what is the in it?
And a fun challenge at that, with the ability to win some really cool stuff. So that's changing. It does mean that our date is going back. Our date was going to go back anyway. We've had a senior leadership meeting around this, and basically we would not have had enough of the visual effects
she looks really
done
good
and polished by the time that we set. So I guess it's a watch this space in terms of time, more likely to be the very end of June, early July. And in terms of how do we know if we're picked, back to the original...
I think the music that I had talked about in the last Friday video is currently playing in the background.
Original question. Basically, you will be emailed to let you know which wave of the beta you are in, alpha, beta, whatever you want to call it, you are in. And that will come through via email. We will try and get everybody who has signed up to the beta list into the game in one of the waves that we set up. So, as I say, more details coming on Thursday in the podcast. It says here, in the video with Scratch, it was mentioned there will be 9 factions on release. Any reason behind the changes? Yes. So there are...
This is pretty big.
So we've removed one faction. And generally, it's because
it was the one I predicted.
Other gaming companies in the world doing exactly the same thing, with probably the exception of Smite. So our Svarga faction, which is a shame because the heroes looked so freaking cool. But anyway, the Svarga faction is no longer going to be part of
Svarga was their like Indian culture, Indian religion with like Vishnu and stuff.
the game. Basically, we have been recommended that we should remove it because it's still such a massively active religion that is, and the gods are still actively worshipped all the time. We don't want to cause any offense, and yeah, so that was
That
the
makes
main
sense.
reason.
I mean, I feel
And
like a good portion of, I mean, I could be totally wrong with this, but I feel like a good portion of the Shinto religion is still practiced. Like a lot of Japanese culture comes from traditions based in Shinto, and they still have like Izanami. Like maybe it's not as sort of like boldly practiced, but there is, a ton of people in India. So I think in one of the previous like concept art / like inspiration pages that we had seen, we saw like do whatever you can to avoid references to Catholicism. So that makes sense that they're just trying to blanket
although
avoid it.
we thought we were doing I guess a good job of depicting them in a really cool way. It doesn't matter. Like basically, we've been advised that is not the right thing to do. So they've been removed. There's also been some name changes, which is another one of the questions on here. Why have Kajiki and Cyber changed names? Basically, we have got now a new lore writer who is Aaron, who was actually on a podcast recently, and
That was
I
a good
just wanted
podcast.
to have a bit more of a uniform feel for how the names are kind of like depicted, and it's they're based on, I guess, mythological or cool locations which mean something to that mythology. So a couple of the names have changed, which you'll see in game if you've been keeping your eyes open. Which means that things like merch stores and that are going to be updated as well. Okay, what's the reason?
We talked about that too. Like, if you had gotten early the like I stand with the Jade Empire or I stand with Kojiki, you've now got a collector item because they're no longer in the store.
Common and uncommon heroes. So yeah, why do we have these heroes that a lot of people would class
Oh, I
as fodder,
totally skipped my
which
question.
means that things like merch
This is
stores
my
and that
question.
are going to be updated as well. Okay, what's the reason behind common and uncommon heroes? So yeah, why do we have these heroes that a lot of people would class as fodder or whatever in game, even though we still put effort into them, although this guy's floating a bit.
So I want to preface this with, I know that there is effort, even if it's just like, hey, let's grab a bunch of pieces from rares and legendaries and whatnot and sort of make this character, or if it's built from the ground up. I totally understand and respect the time that is put into these things. I truly don't see the point for their existence.
We still put effort into them for their visuals and that type of stuff. I guess it's really to give us our systems of leveling. It's to have the ability for players to feel progression.
If I'm thinking, so like the only game in this mode or in this genre that I've played that has commons and uncommons is Raid Shadow Legends, and I don't feel the progression of going from a common to an uncommon to a rare to an epic to a legendary. Most of the teams, especially like we're not going to start this game choosing one of 3 uncommon characters as our starting character. Our starting character is going to be a rare character, and we're going to summon and pull rare characters and above and use those. Like I'm a particularly large Armiger fan. He's a uncommon from Raid Shadow Legends. I have 5 of them that I used other Armigers to skill up. I had like 60 in my vault at one point. I love this guy, but he's an uncommon and he's useless. At a very early stage in the game, you outgrow commons and uncommons. In every playthrough, I've made 1 million raid accounts. Every time, it's always there. You just skip right to rare. And using that as like an excuse. Oh, hey, we need some progression. We need these characters so you can use stuff to level up. Like, I feel like there could just be a level up currency, or, you know, I mean, I guess it's to make it seem like the rares are just better, so that you're more likely to keep rares, so that you don't use rares as fodder as early as you would a common and uncommon.
And, you know, because there's been a lot of other questions in the Discord around, please make sure that commons or uncommons are just as useful as a legendary. Look, we're going to have game modes, I think, where that's going to be a thing. But, you know, we've got normalized modes where we could literally turn something on and say, for this wave of normalized this week, for this season, or whatever, there'll only be commons and uncommons in this mode.
I think that could be fun.
Right? But ultimately, for the progression system in the game and for the main kind of like, I guess, core loop of the game, it makes sense to have these kind of heroes that are going to start off as lower level.
I mean, clearly they're going to be used as wave enemies. So you're going to have them in the game, so why not make them collectible? Like, I see that.
And their abilities, albeit still useful, are not as good as the higher tiers. It's mainly to give you a sense of progression through the game and to give the game that kind of like longevity and life. But
I don't think that uncommons and commons give anything longevity, except unless you create ways to make them useful, like an event that says, hey, you specifically need to use uncommons for this, from this faction or from that faction, or like whatever.
But
I think it's just a way. What did he say?
As the higher tiers. It's mainly to give you a sense of progression through the game and to give the game that kind of like longevity and life. But
so like if you add a 10th faction, or if you add another faction, you need to make commons and uncommons for that. So that's like another thing that pushes back a release of something. But you're never going to introduce new commons and uncommons unless it's a new faction. Like, why would you, unless they're part of like a fusion or something? If you make them part of, maybe there's like epic fusions or rare fusions or something like that, you might create more. But like, what's the sense of making an uncommon, spending time making an uncommon, when you could spend time making a legendary that people are going to spend money rolling for? I just don't see the point.
But and interestingly, we have had these same conversations internally.
Oh, I'm sure they have. I'm sure.
Common and uncommons. They do it in some games nowadays, but we really wanted that wider breadth of hero. So, you know,
this is the bigger thing.
With at least a couple of hundred heroes.
They're launching with a couple hundred heroes, and they want to be able to say that. If you gut all the commons and uncommons, let's say there's 10 of each in the 9 factions. That's it's 20 times 9 is 180 characters gone, just evaporated. And that sounds a little less impressive if you're like, oh, we're launching with 60 characters rather than 240. Like, I get it, but also that seems again like a poor excuse.
In game. Okay, what's this one?
No disrespect. I totally get it. Totally understand. I'm just
on here. If you could play Godforge as a player, I will be, by the way. Totally blind to its development, what kind of player would you be? Oh, interesting. A lore chaser, a PvP sweat guy, a collector. So my play style generally, okay, and I played a ton of World of Warcraft, a ton of all sorts of games actually, which have got
my god, the sun.
I guess a fantasy feel. I'm generally a PvE player, so I'm someone who likes to unpick challenges which are like boss related. That's my kind of like jam. That's what I enjoy to do. So I guess I would be the lore chaser stroke collector. But really, for me, actually, none of those really encompass what I like to do. I like to go against a challenge and unpick the best way to defeat that challenge. So for me, I like interesting bosses. I do play some PvP games. I play a bunch of League of Legends. I play a bunch of Teamfight Tactics, Hearthstone.
I need to know what position and what character Simon plays in League. I think that could depending on his answer, that could really sway me from playing this game. I'm just kidding.
And Battlegrounds, which are kind of like...
If he's a jungler, get out of here. I don't want it.
and I do enjoy those style of
Shaco
games.
player, get out of
And
here.
I've enjoyed PvP in this style of game before as well, but I much prefer for PvP a more like a normalized experience. So rather than, you know, did I get... I like to be able to outthink someone rather than just be beaten up by, you know, someone just having the ability to outbuy me. That's my personal thing. Okay, will there be a system in place to discourage the need to re-roll accounts for a better start? So I don't think we're going to be the type of game that has like a heavy re-roll type of mechanic to it. I can't see that that's going to be our thing. So I can't see.
I never re-roll accounts anyway.
I just don't think re-rolling is going to be a massive.
There was a game called Artery Gear it's a gacha game that is no longer around. It was sort of like a anime mech type game, and the first legendary that you got was from a group of legendaries, and you'd roll on the banner a bunch, and then when you got the legendary, you just got to pick the legendary that you wanted. It was sort of like a really good way to get around re-rolling, because re-rolling just creates a bunch of fake accounts or a bunch of dead accounts that sort of skews statistics. So like if there becomes a point where you're just like given a legendary, or you get enough in-game currencies to get a legendary, and it's from like a small group of them, having the ability to just like pick the one that you want is most likely just going to be pick the one that's the best out of the group, but was definitely a better, like, oh hey, my account got the bad one, so now I'm just going to re-roll. Like, you didn't have to do that.
Feature of our game. We're not someone who's like, at the end of this area, you're going to get 1 of 5 legendaries, or 1 of 10 or whatever, and then you keep re-rolling until you get the good one. That's not the vibe we're going for. Are there any plans for creator-specific tools like spectator modes, custom lobbies, or lore databases to help creators tell stories in the Godforge universe? Spectator modes, custom lobbies. Yeah. Okay, so there's some stuff, and I don't know if this is going to be for launch. Okay, but there is definitely some stuff we want to do. We want for PvP, we want for you to be able to just select a friend or a clanmate and battle them in PvP as like a friendly battle, right? So that's one thing we want to do. I would also like for other people in your clan to be able to spectate that fight, a bit like you get in a Clash of Clans type of model. I'm not certain that's going to be in for launch, but it's definitely something we want to do. We also want for you to be able to have custom lobbies where it's like I'm pulling 16 people into this PvP battle.
Sure, make a tournament.
Fight it out. Again, might not be on for launch, but it's definitely something which we're aiming to get done. In terms of lore databases to help creators tell stories, I mean, there will be like lore information within each of the heroes, if that's what you mean. So yeah, definitely. And storytelling and stuff is a big part of what we're doing. Big seasonal drops are going to have like a new wave.
That's just information you're going to have to find on your own.
New things to play through, heroes that relate to that.
Very little does a game developer create that sort of thing for the players. It's mainly just people who make that for the game. Or
past heroes that are already in game are kind of like the main subject of that. So yeah, there is some stuff going on around storytelling and lore. It's really important to our game. Will there be transparency showing in-game currency conversion to USD or euros? I mean, there will be shops where you can buy currency, I guess, for USD or euros. If that's what you mean? Like a web store type of shop to do that.
There's I think a law that's trying to be passed in the EU right now that's is trying to get rid of secondary currencies in game. And letting you have a transparent, like, okay, in order to roll once on this banner, it will cost you $1.47, rather than 100 doodly monies, whatever the currency is, because it's a tactic that plays on your brain. If you spend money to get a currency that is no longer money and is now just an in-game currency, you're more likely to just spend it and be like, oh, well, I almost have enough for the next roll. Let me just go top up. and the EU just like really doesn't like that. They don't like loot boxes. They don't like these sort of predatory, psychological things that are like within these genres. So I think that's what the question's about. It's more likely that they're just going to keep with the norm, and if that change comes about because of laws, they will change it. So, Hoyo and the Hoyo games are just like, they're also going to have to do that type of thing.
But ultimately, in game, it's not going to say, "Oh, you've got this many diamonds, and by the way, that is worth $10." Like, no, that's not going to be what we do in game. That would be weird. He said the game will not be pay to win. Money will only accelerate progress. Just be careful. Like I've said, there will be modes which will not be pay to win. A bit similar to what I've just spoken about just a second ago. And a free-to-play player that plays for a long time could get to the same level as a pay-to-play player. Okay. But money will accelerate progress a decent amount if you want it to, right? So let's be clear. Like,
Don't worry, don't worry, Krakens. Come to my game. Spend money.
It would be Aether Stones and gets a load of legendary.
You'll be better than free to players.
Early, they're going to get somewhere quicker than you will, most likely, right? If you're free
for sure.
to play.
I mean, that's
in
just
general PvE,
the nature of games.
But there will be normalized game modes, at least two, one at least on launch, where it's purely down to skill, knowledge of the game, etc., to try and win those game modes. And payment will never be like it unlocks stuff that someone that just is free to play can't do. So payment will never overrule that. We will have a seasonal mechanic, but it's not going to be, if you guys play Dragon Age, it's not going to be like we're resetting everything
total
on a seasonal
reset
basis.
Yeah.
There will be some seasonal stuff which just impacts the game flow and makes it more interesting, I guess. Mentioned previously regarding supporter packs for the game to be released before launch. Any additional information you can provide on these, prices, etc. So what will they be? There's going to be an art book which showcases a lot of the work we've been doing to progress the game. There will be some in-game stuff which you would get as part of that package. There will be different tiers of it. So if you just wanted the art book, it'd be this price. If you wanted the art book plus maybe a 3D printed character plus stuff for in-game, it'd be this price. We don't know all the prices and stuff yet, but we are already in the place of producing the art books and stuff like that. What will clans be like? Will there be clan battles with members, good rewards? So clans are a big part of our game, and the ability to be involved with your clan for a number of different areas of the game. So we definitely don't want clans to just be the place where we hang out and there's a clan boss to fight.
Her speed is 100. Oh, she's only an epic.
A clan boss to fight. But yeah, things like having the ability to transfer clan members between members of a cluster is definitely going to be a thing. Good clan chats will be a thing. Being able to share builds with your clan will be a thing. There will be... I'm not going to go into all of the clan stuff, so I think I'm going to keep that under hood for now, but there is a bunch more clan stuff which will be really interesting from launch.
What's going on with their teeth?
Clan Wars will probably come out post-launch, but relatively soon after launch is our plan. So that's going to be quite a big part of a game. It'll be a big feature that we eventually drop through. After Godforge, what's next? Okay. I mean, so we've got aspirations to be more than a one-game studio for sure. But right now, all of our concentration is on building a really great game and making sure that the player base has got a great game. So Godforge is our full focus. But we've already been pitched to by other groups to say, would you be interested in building this game for us? And personally, I really like these kind of like auto chess style games like Teamfight Tactics and Hearthstone Battlegrounds. We're also big sort of TGC type players that enjoy that type of game. We also
I've already talked about how the game needs to be called Staffs and Cloaks, because if you're in Godforge, your character either has a staff or a cloak. I think a card game could be super fun. I really like the idea of creating a card game. I do not like the practice of playtesting a card game because it feels difficult. But there's a couple of people in the Discord like, oh man, wouldn't it be cool to create one? And it's like, yeah, but we don't have any info on the game. Like, we can't like decide on systems because we just don't know anything about the game.
Like I guess.
Would be fun.
More. What's the term? You know, like XCOM style games, but I can't remember what the actual term of
tactical
those
fighting.
are. We like general RPGs. We like roguelike style games, like a Hades style. So, but it will probably be using our IP that we're building out now in Godforge, moved into a new game, a new genre. Probably a genre which crosses over quite closely to what we're doing with Godforge as well. But again, that's kind of like long time.
Maybe like a Enter the Gungeon style. Not quite Isaac roguelike, but Enter the Gungeon.
Way right now, well, not like forever away, but it's definitely not our focus right now. Okay, some quick fire ones. Will there be fusions? There's likely to be fusions, yes. Probably with an interesting spin. Probably not every single month, but there will be a way to get a legendary hero every month through an activity, not necessarily a fusion. Will there be preset systems for auto runs? Yes, there will. Any plans to implement a trial function to test heroes? We have spoken about it.
Pretty big.
I'm not sure the actual answer to that yet. I can't remember where we ended on that, but definitely it's something we've spoken about. And
not having a trial for characters, especially because it seems like they're going towards a more banner-focused role. I mean, things could have changed, but at one point we saw like an infograph that talked about banners, that talked about getting specific legendaries. If there's no way to test a legendary, even if you can see what their abilities do, you don't know if you're going to like them. Star Rail does this pretty well. All of the Hoyo games do it. Like in Raid, if a new character comes out, if a new legendary comes out, you just have to watch the content creators who are lucky enough to get into the test server and play with the character to decide if you want the character, if you jive with them. In like the Hoyo games, you just press the trial button and you hop into like a fake match and you just play with the character with like a preset team. And it gives you a chance to see their animations. It gives you a chance to like sort of feel the damage with like a test build. It's just sort of like a no-brainer.
It's quite interesting. What else have we got here? Will removing gear cost currency? So I've done a full video on gear actually, and gear to remove gear will not cost currency. The only thing to do with gear which will cost currency would be to level it and to attune it. And to attune it will probably be a relatively expensive cost, because that is almost saying, I think this gear is going to live here for a long period of time. What made you pick Unity over Unreal? Unity is just straight better for any game which is going to have a heavy influence on mobile. So
Maybe because I'm not a game developer, I just like never understood this. Like Unity, I don't know. There's been so many great mobile games that were made in Unreal. They were made in like Unreal 2 and 3. Like you could do it. And Unreal just seems so much more efficient. Maybe it's because I'm biased and I really like the UI of Unreal and I don't like the UI of Unity.
Yeah, Unity makes a lot of sense for mobile.
Could I tell you anything more than that? Nope.
Essentially play the game for you. Doesn't this basically just give people the option to play your game as an idol? I don't know. It's not something which we're keen to do. See, weird question. We're not an idle game, and obviously you can play on auto and stuff, but yeah, we're not sort of setting ourselves up to be an idle game. And again, like for that, understand what you are. Don't try and be all things. If you try and be all styles of game, then ultimately you will be no style of game, right? So you definitely need to understand what you are. Will there be a test server? Not confirmed, but I can't see why not. Will Godforge have multiple areas to earn stats or ability bonuses, making progression feel rewarding across different parts of the game? Yes, it will. There'll be a lot of content, especially over time. And yeah, for sure, that's definitely going to be a thing.
Radiance.
Do I have to do PvP content to get PvE gear and vice versa? That's not our plan, no. Our plan would be for PvP to reward gear that makes more sense for PvP, and vice versa. Who's the employee of the month? Oh, damn. Employee of the month. Well, we literally just pulled together what I would class as a stable build so that I could go out and talk to a couple of groups that are interested in Fateless and Godforge. And part of that is kind of like pulling together visuals for heroes. Part of that is getting our combat feeling a bit slicker. With still some work to go, all that type of stuff. I would say
Bigby's hand.
I don't know. I wonder if that was one of our own team that put that in there. I don't know. I think a lot of the team are doing a phenomenal job. John's done a phenomenal job on building out this timeline so we can actually build abilities well. The VFX team are starting to come in really strong now. We've got Henry building out
In the in the podcast after this, there's a small bit where they're talking to Ash about like, oh hey, people are like complaining about the UI and how it doesn't look finished, and it's like, yeah, it's still beta, still early days. We're still working on that, and I think I think part of that was aimed at me because I definitely dunked on these HP bars.
UIs to improve what we're seeing right now. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on, so impossible to call that out. Too many amazing people in the team. Henry building out new UIs to improve what we're seeing right now. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on, so impossible to call that out. Too many amazing people in the team. Right, what else we got here? What is one of the biggest mistakes or assumptions you made as a new game studio in the last 6 months? What did you learn or take away from that? I guess one of the things which we've learned is around, it's probably for me specifically, honestly, like, when we give timelines, we should be a bit more loosey-goosey because it's possible that things go back in game design and game development.
Beta was meant to be in
when you're
February.
Trying to get elements of polish done. So that's one for me.
Just kidding.
So yeah, aside from a roguelite mode, what other game modes are you at liberty to discuss at this point? I think I've already discussed a decent amount in this video, actually. So I think we'll leave it at that. We will have a cool tower as well, I guess. Maybe that's one that I haven't spoken about with some interesting stuff coming, but I'm not going to go into all the details on that right now. Will there be any data transfer from beta accounts to main game? Again, I go into full detail on that on Thursday's
Yeah, I think the answer is clearly no.
Ultimately, the answer is no, but there's some good reasons for that. So watch the podcast and you'll be fully informed. Can you elaborate any more on any esports hopes or plans for when normalized PvP is introduced to the game? I know there were some mentions of it before. So yeah, so I think the normalized PvP mode will be really strong for esports stuff, mainly around a draft system, which will be really fun to be involved with. If you've played games like Hearthstone Arena, that's the type of system we're thinking of for drafting. And then I guess this ability to...
Yeah, but Hearthstone Draft never made it to esports. That was just a competitive game mode. Hearthstone esports is a deck versus a deck that somebody has created. At least from what I understand. Maybe I'm totally wrong. Maybe there are drafts.
About teams that can compete in a live matchup will be involved in that as well. So yeah, that's the kind of main thing. Which, but again,
I mean, if the normalized PvE mode or if the normalized PvP mode is good enough, I could see that being like a good competitive thing to watch. But esports level, I don't know. As an esports coach, I would temper my expectations.
Well, I'll go into details on the systems as the systems are kind of more fleshed out and easier to sort of share with you, I think. At this point of the dev process, as it concerns gameplay ability or mechanics, what do you feel most and least confident you have right? Interesting. I think I feel we've got most and least right. So I think at the moment, playing through our very early levels, there's things we need to tweak. And you probably would have seen it actually as I'm just playing through some of the early level stuff here. Like at the moment, I don't think we get ultimates quick enough to make them really effective in fights. Albeit all of my heroes are currently naked, and gearing will make a big difference to that. So that's one thing which we need to get right, and that will change the sort of feeling of game balance. There's some things as well which we're actively working on right now.
Do they have gear sets that allow for ultimate regeneration? because it's like a big thing in gearing in other gacha games that have ultimates, like your energy regen on some characters you just want higher than others. Like that's your primary stat, so you can just ultimate more.
Now, so one of those things is UI. We're making changes again to the UI, which I think we've not got quite right. Some of it feels like it's a bit old school, I guess, or slightly cheapened in things like the HP bars and the divinity meters and stuff like that. So there's some stuff we're changing there.
Again, quickly I'll mention I think it's redundant to have both a turn order and a turn meter. I think that the divinity bar, you can kind of see it. It's like light blue on each of the characters, like left of the health bar. That fills up as they attack. I think it's just redundant. I think you could have that as be like a shield bar. I think you could have it be literally anything else. There's already a turn order. You can just have when your turn meter goes up beyond somebody else's, you just move. The character just moves on the turn. I don't get it.
A bit old school, I guess, or slightly cheapened in things like the HP bars and the divinity meters and stuff like that. So there's some stuff we're changing.
I hope we get text in HP bars.
And I think as well, just cameras and game feel is kind of getting closer and closer, but it's still not quite right. So those things are really polish things which happen as we get closer to, putting something out for you guys, I guess. What else have we got here? Is there a feature you really want to fit into the game, but you just aren't able to make it work for whatever reason? There's a feature which I want us to put in that is not going to be in on launch, or probably even close to launch. But it's a throwback to some of my favorite games that I've ever played. Certainly some of the older games, and I'm not going to tell you what it is because we're definitely going to do it. But yeah, there is a feature that I definitely think would be awesome for the game.
Okay, so I'm gonna interrupt here because I just talked about this yesterday. In the second anniversary of Honkai Star Rail, the event currently going on, they've made a mini game that's a idle incremental growth, essentially like cookie clicker, where you get money over time that grows and grows, and you have like modifiers that grow your amount of money that you get every second. And they're actually really good at doing this in Zenless. So Zenless Zone Zero is like a big game, and inside the game there's an arcade where they have arcade mini games. One is like a roguelike, like top down roguelike. They've got their version of Snake. They've got like a car driving mini game where you just go left and right. They've and like mini games, they've done tower defense mini games. There's room for a side scrolling Golden Axe. If you can fit this mini game into, and even Nikkei has done this where they'll put mini game tower defenses into their games. You can have people spend way more time in your game if you create all these mini games. And I hope that that's what he's talking about. Wouldn't it be cool if you could play Golden Axe or Contra or some beat 'em up, or like a 2D low res fighting game with some of these characters? It'd be super fun.
We're just not in a position that we're ready to get it done. Will the game stick to a fantasy sword and sorcery genre when adding new champions, or will we see more modern legends such as Musketeers, Billy the Kid, Jack the Ripper, Jekyll and Hyde, that type of stuff? Definitely got no reason to not put more modern legends in. Currently, we have no gunpowder in our game. That's
I like that
decision that we've made to
Fable. My interest in Fable really took a hit in the second game when they introduced gunpowder.
Kind of uphold at the moment. Things can change over time, obviously, but yeah, fantasy, sword, and sorcery is definitely our direction at the moment.
Sword,
rather than rather than guns and that type of stuff. And last one here then, from Mr. Sneaky. How do you plan to introduce new content? Is it just going to be hero releases, or are you making big events with stories to implement? I've kind of spoken about it already, actually. There will be some months or releases where it's kind of more hero based, and not just heroes, but heroes, weapons, and small quality of life changes. And there will be bigger seasonal drops where it will be storylines come in and content which kind of like flows around that story. So that's probably that's probably the vibe.
Unless they introduce new campaign levels, just like continuously adding campaign levels, I don't really know how they add story unless it's like story levels that are specific to that story. I guess Watcher kind of does that, where the new story comes in, and there are essentially just campaign levels that they've retooled to be relative to that story. Maybe.
Thank you for all your questions. Hopefully you've all learned some new stuff about Godforge today. Make sure you sub to the channel if you enjoy the content and want to know more. And I'll see you in the next one.
All right, so this is the second part of the video. This is going to be a little bit quicker. I do have some thoughts, of course. This is why I'm bringing it up, about what this is. And it comes from a place of love and a place of sort of like, I like to question things and I want to figure out the intentions behind things. But ultimately, I'm just going to shut up and have fun about it. But anyway, let's watch it.
Yeah, so I guess we've been having
This is
a
about
lot
beta.
of internal discussions around what do we want the beta, or in reality, it's probably more like an alpha experience to feel like. And I guess what we originally planned was, here's a bunch of elements of the game, and you guys can jump in there. Some of those elements are pretty polished and start to experience what the game's like.
So originally, I had been pretty against this type of thing. They had talked about there being a beta with over 100 characters, and it was just basically, here's the build of the game as it is now. Go in, go test everything, go do whatever. I would have rathered it be something a little bit more confined and a little bit more polished, something that was more reminiscent of the finished game so we could get an idea of that particular aspect. I had sort of dubbed it like a quarantined version of the game so that we're not like overloaded with, do everything in like the 2 weeks that you have to play beta. It would just be like a certain aspect of the game. And they were just not on, that level.
That could be anything from running the normal level of campaign, start to run some of the early level of dungeons, start to get that kind of like core loop of building your heroes and building teams. So really what we want to get from a beta is, what does the gameplay feel like? Has it got like a good feel to combat? Has it got a good feel to earning these different heroes, leveling them up, experiencing different team combinations, that type of stuff. So that's kind of what we were looking for. And we had some internal discussions this week. And really, this is kind of like dropping half the press, really, because we've got a different...
This week being April 19th, the beta was meant to come out sometime in May.
Idea, which we think is going to be pretty cool. And I want to kind of chat it through with you guys. So we're thinking, why don't we go for more like a community challenge? So ultimately, it's like the same type of things we want to test. We still need to test those things, right? So, everything I've just said there is still really key for us to get feedback on. But if we had a tower, let's say it's got 100 to 200 levels, and it is a challenge for who in the community can get highest in their given time period during the beta. And within that, you still have different levels which will drop materials or heroes or gear or what have you to enable you to continue to progress through the tower. But ultimately, it becomes like this challenge mode where, within a couple of weeks, it's like, who's going to get to the top and, basically, get themselves set in stone in terms of, the best beta players for Godforge.
Yeah, we have some things we probably, Dan may sneak in here and be like, hey guys, let's not talk about that right now. We've got some really interesting things about for the winners or the people that are able to complete the tower and stuff like that. But yeah,
but I guess as a theme, as a change of direction, I guess Tim, we'll throw it to you. What's your initial thoughts as I'm talking through it?
Okay, so this is so in Magic the Gathering, there is a large tournament that takes place, I think, like once every couple months. It's like once every 3 months. And it's been happening for 20 plus years. It's called the Pro Tour. And it's basically like a bunch of people who have done really well at Magic the Gathering tournaments all year. They sort of like accumulate these points, these pro points, by doing well in tournaments, and then they qualify for the Pro Tour. And the Pro Tour is like this big event that's televised, and like there's some decent cash prizes and like a lot of Magic the Gathering clout and stuff for like participating in, not even like winning. It used to be that no matter where it was located, every participant got flown there. So like people would there's like stories of people who, you know, during Pro Tour like Kyoto or something, they'd get flown there. They'd show up with a deck that just like was doo doo. They'd intentionally lose day one, and then they'd spend the rest of the paid vacation just doing whatever they wanted in Kyoto, you know? So it's called the Pro Tour, not because it's called the Professional Tour. It's called the Pro Tour because it's the promotional tour. It promotes the game. It promotes the idea that you could be good enough to get to places around the world via playing Magic, that you could get paid to live off of playing Magic. And this, when I said I wanted a quarantined mode, is not what I had talked about. This is 100% a promotional beta. It's not even a beta. I want to stress this right off the bat. I feel like I've been talking about this in the Discord for a while now, and I feel like every time I express my opinion and my concerns that I come across in an overly negative way. And I want to stress that I'm excited for Godforge. I'm excited for the beta. I'm excited to play it. I'm excited to stream it and talk about it and feature the game, because I believe in the devs. I really like them as content creators. I really like interacting with them and learning about them and talking with them for the past, 6 months or 7 months, however long it's been since I've been involved with this. But I can't shake the fact that everything that has been happening is strictly for promotion, including the beta. Like, when I think of a beta test, it's something, you want to participate in because you want to try the game a little bit early, but it's also something that you want to, help the game develop further. Like, maybe I'm just too naive when I think about being a beta tester. I actively want to test the game. Like, I'm not being paid because I like testing games. Maybe I'm just like, out of my element, and like, maybe that's like not a normal thing. But like, if I had tried for a very, very long time to be in game development Q&A, but that just like never worked out. So like, I just, like, in this game mode, am I going to be able to test what it's like to get gear? Am I going to get to test different gear modes, or is everything normalized? Like, I'm going to be able to test the combat and like feel how the combat feels and get a sense of like how fast or how slow things are. Is it better to play on 2x or 1x? Does it feel good? Do the ultimates feel good? Does everything sound good? Like, I'm going to get the sort of like surface level stuff, but am I going to be able to test like, how do I acquire artifacts? Does that feel good? How do I get a character from level 1 to 60? Does that feel good? How do I ascend characters and get items for them, or get weapons for them, and then craft the weapons for them, and then attune the weapons to them? And like, does the summoning experience feel good? Like, do I feel like I'm always being ripped off because of the mercy? Like, I understand that they're being pretty close-lipped about this because, it's literally a new idea, and they're trying to get this going so they can get the beta out as soon as possible, because they want to release the game as soon as possible, because they want to get this in the hands of content creators, because people creating content on how much they're pushing in this beta to get to first place is going to draw in a bunch of eyes. Like, I get it. But like Nan is saying, because nothing is going to be transferring from beta to your main account, is this event even going to matter once the game comes out? Like, my biggest question in the Discord, which I think got pretty glossed over, is the game mode that we're going to play going to be in the main game, or is it specifically being crafted for this beta test? And if so, that is not a beta test. That is a promotional version of the game that is being packaged so that it can be promoted to people. I feel like I'm getting a little heated, and I don't mean to be. I'm so sorry. Anyway, I'm just a little bit concerned because I feel like this is just like a reoccurring thing. The trailer was a promotional trailer. It didn't really give us anything. Not saying that time and effort isn't well used for these kinds of things. Like, I see the effort, I see the accomplishments that are being made, like, and I appreciate them. But this is not a beta. And like, my favorite thing to do in a beta is, like, when I'm not streaming or whatever, I'll just like click random stuff. Just like, oh, let me see if clicking between these two menus gives me every character in the game or crashes my game. Like, I'm understanding that that's like more Q&A stuff, and not everybody needs to do that, but like, I don't know what. I'm excited. I'm gonna play it. Maybe I should just shut up and enjoy it, but like, it just seems so hollow. And there's a Ash says something later on in the video that's like, oh hey, this is like the Hell Hades free-to-play challenge in Raid. So every year, Hell Hades in January on the website and in the Discord starts a challenge that you can track to start a new free-to-play account, and it's basically like who in the community can push their free-to-play Raid Shadow Legends account the furthest in like the shortest amount of time, because I think it only lasts like 3 months. I tried to participate. I don't make any raid content, so I didn't make like the content creator tier, but I still participated. It was really fun to see like my name climb up the leaderboard for a little while, because it was, it was like who was better at the game versus who got what. And then it eventually became, oh, you just pulled better characters than me, so obviously you're going to skyrocket in progress compared to me. So it became a little bit less fun after that. But when that series dropped, I saw so many new content creators and so many existing content creators gain such a large viewership because it was specifically this free-to-play challenge. There's this interesting payout of like, hey, I'm the best at Raid free-to-play or whatever at the end of the 3 months. And people came together as like a community to talk about it, talk about strategies and whatnot. And it was this big promotional thing. Raid Shadow Legends even made a promo code specific to this challenge that you could use, or like a link to make your account that started with specific characters for the challenge. So like, this just feels like a promotional build of the game to get as many eyes on the game as possible, and not a test of the game. And I mean, they keep toting that like there's so many X amount of people signed up for the beta. Like, I feel like stress isn't particularly an issue. It's not particularly it's not an issue that they can't fill seats, I guess, to play in the beta. It's just that they want more people to see the game. And by seeing the game, they see the game, they play the game, they spend money on the game. Clearly, that's a funnel. It just, I don't know. I don't know. I'm excited to do it. I'm excited to play it because I know I'm just like clearly going to be first place, right? Like, I'm going to spend however much time we get. I'm going to be number one. And I'm going to make damn sure that I'm number one, because I need to put my fucking money where my mouth is. And if I'm going to complain this much, I need to do it. But damn, I'm just disappointed. And I don't know how to properly explain it. inside the tower experience. So we know that the tower. I think I missed or stepped over this before. The tower aspect is going to be a part of the game. I don't know if it's going to be like faction based or, it's sort of like Doom Tower and Raid where like there's like a different end boss or whatever. We don't know anything like that, but we know that there's going to be a legitimate tower in the game. So this is clearly going to be like almost like a showcase of that. But I don't know if this version of it is going to be in the game. So like.
No, so we're thinking Justice Tower, and a couple of reasons actually. So we're thinking like we didn't really want to spoil all of our story, all of our cutscenes, all of the work that's going into that side. It's one of those things. Once you've kind of played it and done it, certainly the initial campaign, the initial story, when you're then coming back through that in a couple of months' time,
it's not as special.
Oh, my dog's going crazy. It won't land the same, right? So we really didn't want to spoil that, and then
I think that's untrue. In the major gacha games that I've participated in betas for, Honkai Star Rail was 3 betas, Zenless was 2 that I participated in. All of them were showcasing the same beginning of the game. It was, in the first beta, it was like the first half hour to an hour of the game, story-wise. You get your character, you get some combat in, you get to experience the game, soundtrack, combat, whatever like that. And then that was it. By the end of it, you could like progress pretty far into the game. And that was really fun. And I enjoyed playing the game every time because the story was good. The story was interesting. And then when the game finally came out, I was like, oh, this is my real account. I'm actually going to like take my time and make sure I do everything right. And I felt like I had a little bit of an advantage because I played through it before. So I can like, make more informed decisions. And in Zenless, it was kind of the same way. Each beta had like a different way that the story was presented. At first, it was just sort of like RPG, PNG images. It wasn't really like the fleshed out version that it is now. But you still got to experience the beginning story. I don't think that not experiencing the story in the beginning cheapens the experience. Because if it's a good experience, you're not going to mind doing it again.
And then we're thinking, well, maybe we just do 1 or 2 cutscenes to give you a flavor of what they would be like. But again, it feels so disruptive because we're going through the campaign and then it'd be like, well, I feel like I haven't really got much of this story that I've started to learn about. Yeah. So we just...
That's the appeal, right? If that's the tie that says, oh, hey, I participated in the beta, I also need a tie to want more. Like, you want more. If the story's good enough that you want to go and wait and hype up the game during like the launch window, you then, it's like a trilogy of movies is going to come out. You watch the first one. You don't wait until all 3 are out. Like, I don't know if I'm explaining that properly. Probably not. It's late, okay? It's late. I just don't see it. And like giving us a flavor of like what the cutscenes are going to be like. They constantly talk about, okay, we're going to have these parallax cutscenes. They're going to be voiced over. They're going to do this, do that. Is any of that going to be in the beta? Are we going to see any of what they've been talking about for months? Or are we just going to have to wait until the game comes out? Like, I'm fine waiting until the game comes out for that, but it seems interesting to not have that be a part of the beta, where a bunch of people are going to be seeing the game and a bunch of people are going to be playing the game.
Decided, let's park the game. The development of the game continues whilst everyone's enjoying this different game mode. But ultimately what it is just like a sped up version of progression through the game, through this tower. So you still get the core elements of gameplay. You just get it in like a real sort of compact experience.
Too, it sounds like. You get some mini bosses, some some first looks, and then you'll be able to connect those dots when it's actually go time in the future.
Yes,
right?
Yes, well, that's the idea.
And those characters will be like so. I mean, like to speak to what
Simon was talking
about with what we've done. Like we've really been spending a lot of time building out the lore of the universe, and man, it's really shaping up. It's something that it started as like, hey, we want to make sure that this is not an afterthought. And then it went to like, oh man, we've actually built
the lore in Raid Shadow Legends is 100% an afterthought. So like half the characters in that game don't have any lore whatsoever.
Really freaking cool. Like,
Yeah.
let's make sure that all these pieces fit together. Like you'll notice it in the environments, like some link to what's happening in the story. You'll notice it in the characters and the way they interact. We've got kind of a little bit of a mystery. We really just don't want to. We want to ruin that type of stuff, like, you know, in the story. So we felt like, hey, this would be super fun. And as you said at the beginning, Ash, that like it's nice not to have to be like, okay, I got to figure out all these systems, right? And I only have a couple weeks or however long this thing goes on for, and then
This is why one beta is not enough. And I said this a long time ago. If when we thought that the release of the game was going to be in summer of this year, I said that if there was a potential for the release to be summer, that beta needed to be before the end of last year, and there needed to be another wave, because if you have a quarantined beta of like, hey, test out these systems, test out these systems, test out these systems, you have time to look at the systems, or have people look at them, have people play them and experience them, look at the data, react to the data, change things if you wanted to, beta test again. Do these feel better? Yes, no. Look at the data, fix it again. This is why most large games like this, at least that are like very, maybe not very public facing, because most games are not public facing like this, in terms of like, I guess in the gacha genre, in betas, have many beta tests, including closed beta tests where you're not allowed to showcase anything. It's strictly for feedback. They have them more frequently as the game gets closer to launch, because you just don't have the internal QA like numbers to really do anything with.
You know, I won't necessarily get to keep the exact squad and stuff that I've built. So this feels like, okay, we've got this teaser alpha event type of deal. We've got this, you know, limited set of characters going up the tower. Or down. We haven't decided on the. We'll decide like how that actually
descend.
We'll see.
I'm curious. So, Brad, so I know that you were involved in the Diablo Immortal kind of like launch, and you were quite heavily into that. They had the same type, not exactly the same as this, but
I'm less
very competitive element to
informed about this.
Like that first group of players that played that game. Like, I just did that change your feeling towards the launch event? And
I want to see what this is about. There might be one more thing I want to touch on.
Blizzard did with Diablo 4, because I just think, you know, for us anyway, look, we need this information. So why don't we do it in a way that community get like a real sort of hype moment behind it? And as you were saying, Tim, content creators, rather than just, you know, I'm playing through the campaign, it'd be like, right, guys, I'm going for floor 112. We know this is a hard floor. This is the team I'm building out. It's just a different type of message when they're trying to like talk about the teams they're building, and ultimately that's what these games are all about for me.
So like, if the beta was literally just, hey, here's the current build of the game, play it, people would instinctively, people that have a competitive drive would instinctively try to push as far as they can versus other people. And I get that, you know, some of the devs are content creators, so they're trying to think of this in like a fun community building way. And like I said, I'm going to be playing it. I'm excited. It seems like this could have been, like, we could have gotten a regular beta months ago. Maybe not like, you know, logistically, we could have maybe not gotten it, but like theoretical Magic Christmas Land, we could have gotten a regular one months ago.
How do I overcome the different puzzles that are in front of me? It's actually why I really love doing the free-to-play challenges, because the game's a challenge again, you know, and for Raid, that is, you know, the game becomes a challenge again for that period of time, whereas, you know, you can be on kind of like autopilot for a lot of the time when you've been playing for a while. So yeah, I feel like it could be just quite a kind of buzzed or hype moment for people.
It's going to be fun, and it's going to be hype.
Those challenges which are, you know, clearly difficult to get past.
Yeah, it's cool.
And I'm going to skip through this. Beta is coming late June, early July is the now current estimate. I don't think there's anything else from this that I wanted to talk about. I honestly, I only got about 3/4 of the way through before I stopped, and I was like, hey, we got to talk about this. I think I've said all I can say. I hope that if you've made it this far, well, thank you if you've made it this far, and I hope that I've not come across too overly negative. I think that we are most critical of the things that we enjoy and the things that we care about the most. And of course, I want to see this game succeed, and I want to see Fateless succeed. Again, I appreciate you for watching, and if you want to check out these videos in their entirety, there will be links down in the description. I appreciate you for watching. My name is Vex, and again, we record these live, so if you want to chat with everybody and discuss this stuff while we're going over it, especially when it's like sort of a hot topic like this, as we get closer to beta, my links will be in the description. We also do like Discord stuff. And of course, if you have any interest in checking out the characters that have been revealed or anything like that, check out the Ragewood Gaming website. That'll also be linked. Appreciate you. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!